Again with the chicka chicka. Gotta love that. Makes me want to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off again. Great movie. So, good morning. Taka namrsno. Buenos dias. Dobre ranok. Utra. And all of that jazz. So today we're going to look at, real quick, because of something that, a question that I got yesterday from my women's only sleep class that I'm doing was about multitasking and how I was like, oh, now you want us to multitask and do all these other things in addition to what we're already doing. And I need to see if I actually said multitasking. I don't think I did because multitasking is a farce. Anybody that says they're really good at multitasking might be good at doing I wouldn't believe it. Let's just say that. Because typically you watch the people really closely that do a lot of multitasking that say they're so good at multitasking. They do a lot of things very inefficiently that could have been done more quickly and at a higher quality if they had been done individually instead of trying to do all of them at the same time. Think about when you've tried to do a lot of things at once, right? You forget where you're at, and then you have to go back and start again. And your brain, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I love neuroscience stuff. And I'm not going to get into all the details because I don't know all of them, but I do know that science shows when you multitask, you're not multitasking, you're task switching very quickly. Your brain can't do all these things at the same time. Might be one rare person out there that can do something like that, but it starts and stops and starts and stops and starts and stops to reset back to where that task that you were doing started or is at in the progress of what's going on. Pay attention. That's my biggest thing ever. Pay attention, be aware, watch the people that say they're really good at multitasking. Usually they're just really busy. And if you've ever experienced this at the end of the day or at some point throughout your day when you're like, oh man, I've been doing so much stuff and you're multitasking, but you're like, what did I actually accomplish? I did a lot of things, but I didn't really accomplish anything. Whereas if you focus on one thing, you're like, I got to get this thing done. Like there's a deadline. And you focused on that, you get that thing done. So thinking about that throughout the day when you're doing a task and whether or not you're fully focused on that. And I definitely want you to look around, always look around. See who you know who's the busiest. I know the people I know that are the quote, quote, busiest do a lot of things inefficiently, and a lot of them shouldn't have been done in the first place. I do this myself sometimes. I'm like, why did I do that? Like, I just wasted a bunch of brain power and time on something that I didn't even really need to do, but I thought it seemed important at the time, and it just wasted my brain power on that. So never efficiently do or inefficiently do that which should have never been done in the first place. Somebody said that. I will have to look that up. uh, and also, the reason I mention this too is I know people that they're like squirrels in a crack house. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. They're always so busy all the time. When you talk to them, you know that you might as well just be talking to a wall. Go to talk to a brick wall because their mind is so scattered on so many different things, multitasking. They're not even paying attention to what you're saying or letting any of that information in because they won't stop for a second because they're too busy getting things done. Or actually not. They think they are. So instead of thinking you're getting things done and doing more than one thing at a time, do one thing at a time. Just try it out. See how that works. It's always it's fun to experiment. And then let me know how that goes. That's all I've got for today. I just had to throw it out there because it was a question that I had about when I talk about, let me real quick, I just realized I didn't explain my theory on things is when you're doing something that requires zero thought and it's just a mundane thing, or My main example is if you're outside getting sun exposure in the morning, you might as well do some grounding or do some journaling or something something that you can overlap that requires no extra thought in the process that will detract from your primary goal of what you're doing in that moment. So hopefully that makes sense. Overlap is different than trying to task switch and multitask. So look for the overlap in the things that you do where it doesn't require any extra brain power to include additional items. For example, getting exercise and checking your mail. Do those at the same time. You can get exercise and talk on the phone potentially. You can concentrate on that, but that's not multitasking. That's including additional items that overlap in a way that gets more done. Let me know if this makes sense, honestly. I can clarify a little more. I just jumped on like at the last minute. I was like, I'm going to just talk about this today. So, an effort to keep these under around 7 minutes, trying to weed these down a little bit. Have an amazing day because it's better than the alternative.